Welcome back, everyone. This segment of The Great Smoke 2023 is brought to you by Yellowstone Bourbon, faithfully yours since 1872. We are here again live on the main stage, The Great Smoke 2023, with the one and only Ernesto Perez-Carillo. Ernesto, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Michael, the first time I came to this event was, I think, about 15 years ago. And I have to really congratulate, Abe and everybody involved, because this is amazing what's happening here today. I mean, the growth has been incredible. And what can I say?
And it's
Mind
really
blowing.
this, we do a lot of events, right? We do a
Yes.
lot of events.
Yes.
But it's rare to do an event, especially this large, where you walk into a room that feels like family.
It is 100%. From the moment I walked in, all the manufacturers, my friends, all the fans that came up and say how happy they were with, what we're putting out there. So, I mean, it really touches the heart.
And, Steve brought this up earlier, Steve Saka. I asked him, what are the bright moments? Obviously, this is a lot of work. This is not an easy business. It's a lot of work.
Right.
But what stands out? And he said it's when people come up and say thank you and share a
Exactly.
moment when they enjoyed your stuff. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. That's why we do what we do. We're not only in a business of making cigars, but we're in a business of giving enjoyments to those that enjoy smoking cigars. And when people come up, they say hello, we enjoy your cigars. I mean, it really makes all the hard work, all the effort that goes into it worthwhile.
I think it's interesting the way you phrase that we're not just making cigars, but we are creating something intended for people to enjoy.
Exactly.
You have a background in that, as do I. We have some interesting things in common.
Yes.
Number one, we're both drummers.
Right.
Number two, we both moved to New York City in pursuit of our dream of being musicians.
That's correct, yes.
Number three, while in pursuit, we both worked for Nat Sherman.
Yes.
Crazy. And number four, we have since come to find profound fulfillment in delivering joy differently than we intended.
Exactly.
But for me, as an artist, it feeds the same part in my soul.
It does.
As a musician. I'd like to hear from you. I mean, there are a lot of musicians and a lot of artists that have found this hobby or found this profession. How do you find your background in music has inspired your growth and development and process in premium cigars?
That's a very, very good question, and you can probably attain to this. When you're in music, it's like the discipline of practicing every day, 6-7 hours, just to be good. I think this is something that, now in the cigar making, you have that discipline where you are constantly, let's say, practicing to come up with that great new blend. You're looking at different tobaccos. You're meeting a lot of interesting people. In music, I had a lot of mentors in music. And in the cigar business, I find the same. There's a how do you say, a collaboration between music and cigar makers and cigar smoking. So to me, that those years that I was a musician, there was also that drive to always do better, to be better than the other musicians that were up at that time. And I think with cigar making, it's pretty much very similar, because you're always trying to see what's out there and trying to improve it or come out with something that's going to be unique where your fans will enjoy it.
You talk about that discipline, and it's sometimes, first, there are so many talented musicians.
Yes.
And very few become stars.
Yes.
There are so many great cigars on the market today. Very few enjoy the success that you have enjoyed. But in particular, you've not enjoyed it just once, but you've enjoyed it twice.
Yes.
Your story is really a one-of-one story. So let's catch people up just to make sure, in case you don't know. The first story is the El Credito La Gloria Cubana story.
Yes.
If we certainly know the idea of boutique brands today, but not an understatement. El Credito and La Gloria Cubana was probably the first real boutique cigar that ultimately was recognized in Cigar Aficionado, got ratings that were just, far and away beyond what was in the industry in that moment. Uh, What was it like then for you in those mid 1990s, early to mid 1990s, to suddenly have this recognition for something that was so simple and so hard to do when you finally got the recognition for the La Gloria Cubana? I think it was the Wavell.
The Wavell, yes.
What was that moment?
Well, I think, and I have to say something. People call me the Godfather of Boutique Cigars, and I have to say that the person that came up with that name is you. Remember that?
Yes.
But I think during those times, it was shocking because it was just something that I never expected. I've been in this business now for about 50 years, and believe me, during that time, the business was nothing like it is today. So when you're confronted with something like this, all of a sudden you don't know what to do. You're just running on adrenaline, I guess you could say, and not really seeing what is happening. I think the second time around with my new company, with my family, we kind of appreciated it more because that was really hard work to get there. So
1999 was when you ultimately sold to Swedish Match, La
Right.
Gloria. And then you were offsides, not for very long. And then in 2009, you came back with Tabacalera Alianza.
Correct.
That was the early days when you and I were sitting down.
Right.
Godfather of Boutique,
Yes.
perhaps, was coined at that time. And since then, I have to say, I think the room would agree, a pretty disappointing track record. I mean, if you just look at this, the number one cigar of 2018 and 2020, the number two cigar in 2014, top 25, 2017 and 2019, Cigar Aficionado Hall of Fame. I'm just wondering, when are you going to start trying? Do you know what I mean? Like at this point, you really should start putting some points on the board. No, all kidding aside, what I'd like to ask you, if you look back at the La Gloria Cubana days,
yes.
and now you look at Tabacalera Alianza days, and you've experienced, really profound success in both. How have you approached Alianza and EPC differently based on the mistakes you made during the El Credito time?
Well, I think with the new company, Michael, first of all, we have to admit that nowadays there's a lot more competition. There's a lot more great cigars out there. With the Gloria Cubana, I think it was a market that was there because of Cigar Aficionado when they came out. All the craziness that went on with it. After when I started my new company, there was a lot more challenges. And I'm blessed to have my kids working with me because they take care of part of business which I frankly don't understand. So I think that a lot of the success that we've had as this company was because of that challenge out there of trying to make a cigar that would stand out among the crowd. And like I said before, there are great cigars out there. So nowadays, to make a cigar, you really have to be in a certain way unique. So that people will try it at least. And before with La Gloria Cubana, it was just, the heydays of the industry. And now that I find, now there's still the heydays of the industry, but a more, how could I put this, a more centralized, consumers, they know what they want to smoke. They're very knowledgeable about what's out there. So you really have to be in your top game to stand out.
And so, how do you do that? How do you? I imagine it now as a young brand owner. There's something about that fire. 20 years, 24 years into the business.
Yes.
You're 50 years into the business, and a lot of folks who have had 50 years in, let's say, have have slowed, or they've passed some responsibilities and torch, but you are still you're like the Roy Haynes of the cigar business. Although you're not as old. You're not as old.
Roy Haynes is 91.
I know, you're not as old. But this guy
I'm getting close.
This guy is still out there. You know, he's still playing at his best level. And I think that goes back to this idea of the mentality of an artist. It's never over.
It's never over.
Right? It's always this quest to get better, this quest to be different.
Yes.
How does that feel today as a veteran of industry versus when you were, let's say, younger during La Gloria? Is it a different effort? Is it a different emotion? How does it feel today when you are still full throttle trying to be your best?
Well, it's again, I think it goes back to my years of being a musician. You know, you were always trying to how do you say, compete, not only with people, you know, in the industry, but with yourself. And I think that, you know, me personally, I'm never satisfied with anything I do. I always try to, you know, if I think I have something good, I try to make it better. And it's just something that's innate in me. You know, I'm always competing with myself. And of course, I'm competing with those people out there that are making cigars also. And, you know, although we're all friends, you know, we're all colleagues, there's still that sense of, you know, I want to see how I can improve or even grow more than we've had up to now.
I'm sure you did the same thing as a drummer. You listen to the people who inspire you.
Yes.
You learn from the people who inspire you.
Yes.
You try and emulate the people who inspire you, yes, but then you try and create your own sound.
Exactly.
How do you take that approach? Because I know you are really an advocate of industry. Your friendships and relationships with your fiercest competitors, yes, are truly genuine friendships rooted in love. How do you balance the inspiration and affection with not trying to follow or copy, but then take that and find your own voice?
Well, you know, there's a lot of ways to do that, Michael. You know, I travel a lot to, you know, I'm in Dominican Republic, but I'll travel a lot to Nicaragua, to Honduras, you know, even in Dominican Republic. I go and I visit different factories and I try to see what they're doing, you know, not only blending wise or tobacco wise, but also, you know, the whole structure of the business. And believe me, you can learn a lot. I go out to the fields and I see what they're doing, and it's amazing how much, you know, new tobaccos, although we may not know it, is right now are being worked on, you know, new seeds, new zones that, you know, years ago, that wasn't the case.
So constant discipline, constant learning.
Constantly.
I have time for just two more questions, Ernie. The first, if you would quickly, there is a TGS exclusive cigar from EPC. Tell us about that cigar, that blend, that project.
Okay, the project what we're doing here, I believe it's the Inch Nicaragua, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, we do some, you know, special things for also for aid. But the Inch Nicaragua here, it's a new thing that a couple of years ago I started looking into, reading a lot about chefs, you know, gourmet chefs and that type of thing. And what they did was that, you know, they go to different restaurants in different cities and they would cook in that kitchen. So I got this idea. The first project we did, I went to the Plasencia factory and I said, you know, let's make a cigar and let me blend it. And I mean, they were open to it, and it was, you know, that's how we got the first Inch Nicaragua. And then our second project was with the Allegiance, which is under the Perez-Carillo lines. And I did that with Oliva. Again, you know, we buy tobaccos from Plasencia, we buy tobaccos from Oliva. And the idea was, you know, let me go in there and see what, you know, what you guys have and what we can make that's different than we make and that you make in your own factories. So those projects, to me, you know, to me, they're innovative.
My last question for you, and it's the one I'm most excited to ask. With 50 years of achievement, what is still on your bucket list? What is the next big thing that is a goal for you that you want to achieve?
That's a great question. And I think, And I have to say this because, like I said, there's a lot of great tobaccos out there. I think I still have a lot of different blends that I always, try, think about, or work with different tobaccos. But I think, me personally, I think my bucket list, the thing that I like to do before I finally retire, is to be able to make blends with Cuban tobacco. That would be, I think, the after that, I don't see where else I could go. But that's my dream, and I'm talking about getting away from everything, all the politics and everything that goes on in the world. Just trying to blend, some Cuban tobaccos with Dominican, with Nicaraguan, with Honduran tobaccos, because I think that's going to be very exciting for the future of this industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ernesto Perez-Carillo.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much.